When I was early 20s, I would say I experienced, right when I got out of acting, I experienced my first what I call Trinity of Trauma. And I'd been a highly creative person, and all of a sudden I had three things that happened that were incredibly traumatic. My twin brother passed away, pretty much in my arms. I had a very violent #Me Too incident. And my mom went through some real mental health issues and said some pretty horrible things, damaging. And so there was this trinity of trauma that really shut me down. And yes, one could say, oh my God, that was horrible. But what it created in me, I shut down my emotions, I shut down my intuition, but I went all brain. And I got very, very driven. And so from this trauma, I created a person who was incredibly alpha, incredibly resilient, incredibly independent, which propelled me, with a theater background no less, onto Wall Street, making a ton of money, getting a ton of titles, and it propelled me through the next 20 to 25 years of my life. And what I realized now, that by the end though, I was so empty inside. I mean, all the external things that people look at for your career, and wow, you've got the house and you've got the title and you've got the money and you've got the car, and I was dead inside, absolutely dead. Then the second trinity of trauma happened. In my mid-40s, I got incredibly ill. I was working an 80-plus-hour-a-week job. I was one of the top executives in a large Fortune 250 company, and I could barely get up a flight of stairs. And it took them months to figure out that I had very bad advanced Lyme disease. And while I was on disability, I got laid off because we had a new CEO. And they were changing the deck chair. So here I am, so ill I can barely get up a flight of stairs. I'm unemployed, which was my total ego. And then after 20 plus years of marriage, some things happened, some final straws with my relationship, and I filed for divorce, all within 9 months. And so here's my second trinity of trauma, and I looked back and I distinctly remember the moment I realized all the things that had propelled me to success over the last 25 years were not going to work anymore. Doubling down on all of those skills and all of those tools were just going to make something worse. And I had to go on a quest to develop a different set of tools, a different set of insights, if my life was ever going to thrive, if I was going to be able to get through this. And that's what I've been doing for the last 6 years. For a girl who was not a self-help girl whatsoever, I was definitely the person that made fun of the women in the self-help aisle, to someone who has read infinitely on different types of development subjects, has now gone through intensive training on executive coaching, life coaching, all different paradigms to really help myself and now others be able to live the life that they know is deep in them. And so it is my passion and purpose to hopefully fast track what took me a very long time to get to, because I hope that other people don't need to go through these trinities of trauma in order to finally get the tools and techniques that really makes their lives incredibly fulfilling, something that they want to be in. And I hope it's a gift that I actually leave the world. interesting project. And it's pretty funny. I mean, when you work with people that smart and they've been really good at what they've done their whole lives, they're not necessarily always used to being challenged. So I have a really pretty funny story. One of the founders was kind of going on and on one day, and I said, well, that's nice. But at some point, you have to decide, are you more committed to your vision or your bullshit? And he took a step back. He's like, what did she just say to me? And I go, well, I think what you're telling me, based upon some initial investor conversations, your vision may have $1 billion valuation in a couple of years. Your bullshit may give you an adrenaline kick. I don't think it's going to get you paid, though. But hell, I'm here on your dime, so you can talk about either. And he kind of laughed, because people who are that intense, if you're going to call them out, it's done with a sense of humor. But what it did is really help them focus on what are these things that were creating noise and drama. And to be frank, we're a bit of a sort of emotional security blanket, so they didn't have to get to the difficult work of how are they clarifying their vision, how are they clarifying where they want to go forward. Interestingly enough, after working with them, it really did come out that it probably was best that they did partner together, that they had different, not only was there communication style differences, but more importantly, there were differences in the vision on where the company needed to go. And what I'm really proud of is I think that when they decided to part ways, they did it from a place of mutual respect, open and honest communication. I mean, obviously those things are difficult, they're emotional, they're tough, but they were, rather than having some big blow up, they really were able to part with as respectful partners with the openness that maybe at some point they will work together in the future. So that was, wasn't necessarily in my financial best interest. It would have been better if they stayed together, but listen, at the end of the day, a coach is there to serve the best interest of their clients. And at the end of the day, that is really what matters. So that was a really fascinating example. Some other people that I coach a lot of women who are looking to negotiate for their next position. And it's kind of fascinating because some of you may know there's this new pay legislation, which is meant to help the pay inequity. And so in many jurisdictions and territories, companies are not allowed to ask, what was your prior compensation? Because what this has done in the past is if women were historically paid less than men, then the next company would just build off of that and it would compound the pay inequity. However, there's an unintended consequence. So what recruiters ask now is, what are your pay expectations? And this sends so many people into this sort of crisis of self, because what do you mean, what are my pay expectations? All of a sudden, it triggers them as far as, I'm not worthy, I'm not smart enough, I don't know what my worth is, how do I put a price tag on my worth? And there were a couple of people I came in even late in the game, they'd already started the negotiations, and they'd asked for flat. Like, what are you doing? We were able to salvage it and sort of kind of do a sharp turn. But it's really, I love working with women so that before they even get to the point that they're negotiating for comp, they've worked through whatever triggers that question. What are your pay expectations? They know what comes up for them. They know these inner voices that are not necessarily serving their best interests, so that when they're really in that negotiation place, they can powerfully and very directly know exactly what they want.
Perfect. Would you like a sip of your Starbucks?
That would be awesome.
Hydration? Stay there, I'll bring it to you.
Oh, you should. Oh, I forgot I forgot. There we go. Thank you.
If you want to take 5 or anything, that's fine.
Do you want me to change dresses, or you think I should just stay in this, or what do you think? Doesn't really matter?
I mean, I think it's been going great so far.
Okay, so why don't we
Doesn't
leave
really
it?
matter, but if you'd like
No,
to,
I don't. I'm good. All right. Da-da-da-da. Let's see what else I want to talk about. Ba-dum-ba-dum. Talk a little bit about what energy leadership is. Get my notes. I can't believe I'm doing this. This is my first time. So let me find. Okay. Thank you so much for doing this, by the way. I really, really appreciate it. It's funny, with this company, I've always been the woman behind the man. I've always been like that second COO, chief of staff, that's prepping the guy to get on the stage, to like, they look amazing, and I'm like, so it's so funny, and it's empowering to kind of take my own advice, get over my own gremlins, and to have to lean in. And you know, I never defined myself as someone who was into personal brand or sales or marketing. I'm like, that's not me. And when I launched my company last year, I declared in 1 year, I'm gonna be freaking awesome at it. I'm just gonna do it. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I don't know what path, I don't know who I'm gonna manifest, but I'm just, in 1 year, I'm gonna be awesome at this. So this is one of the steps to do it.
That's a great take on it. I mean, I think that's how you want probably all your clients to look at it as well.
Exactly. You know what? If you just set the intention, I don't even know. Like, I literally have no idea, but I just know in 1 year, I'm going to be great at this. And it's okay to be nervous, and it's okay. Actually, I'm really proud. There's a very good friend of mine and someone who I actually coach who did her first major public speaking. She's a female Wall Street executive. Very technical area. She's amazing and she's awesome, but always really held herself back as far as getting on panels and speaking. And I thought she was gonna have a nervous breakdown a couple of days before she did it. And I'm like, you're so good, you're so ready. And funny enough, this is an area that I love to coach in because of my classical theater background. So not only do I have the Wall Street background and the coaching background, but there's absolutely presentation techniques that one can use that I'm remembering myself as it is right now. And so she got up there and she just rocked it. I mean, she just absolutely nailed it. And the nice thing is once you do it once and it becomes like a muscle memory, then it's something you can go back to, you know, but you got to get over that fear first. You just have to do the first one, like I'm doing today.
Yeah, the first one is terrifying, the first step. Okay, whenever you feel like
Sure.
you need to resume. All right, so what's this next section going to be on?
So we'll talk about energy leadership and what is it.
Double check everything. And we are rolling.
Great. So wanted to talk a little bit about energy leadership, which sounds kind of woo-woo-y, but it's actually very, very practical framework. So how many of you say or think, oh, if I just had more energy, then I could do the things that I really dream of, or I could be the person that I've always wanted to be, if I just had more energy. Well, what if I told you a secret? It's not more energy. It's the type of energy actually that you've got in your life that's really draining you, that's drawing you down and is really preventing you from having the life and being the person that you've always dreamt of being. So I'm going to talk about some types of energy that may sound technical, but I'm going to break it down in very layman's terms. Okay. So first and foremost, I have to give credit where credit is due. Bruce Schneiderman, who started the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, has this fantastic energetic framework. And the basic categories that it's broken into are what we call anabolic energy and catabolic energy. I know it sounds like you're back in science class, but I'll break it down. Anabolic energy is really the type of energy that's growth-oriented, that's constructive, that's positive. Think of someone that you know, that when you meet them, maybe even before you meet them, you feel inspired, you feel energized, you just feel like you're in tune with your most authentic and best self. That's someone who is really living a very anabolic kind of life. All right, now let's go to the other side. It's not as much fun. Catabolic energy. And this is what most of the world actually has an incredible amount of. And catabolic energy is that very draining and destructive and just exhausting type of energy. And it could actually come in a couple of different flavors. It could be very victim-oriented, why is everything happening to me, to very conflict-oriented, someone who's very aggressive and defiant. But that type of energy really, really undermines your productivity, your fulfillment. It fosters an incredible amount of stress. And people don't really realize just a little bit of catabolic energy can totally disrupt who they are and their enjoyment in life. It's almost like a little bit of cayenne pepper in a recipe. Just a little bit can, if it's not meant to be there, can really kind of overpower it. Now, the good news is if a little bit of catabolic energy can really drain you and make you feel stressed and unfulfilled, if you work with someone who really knows how to help you release that and get at it, just releasing a little bit of catabolic energy in your life can make you almost immediately start feeling more fulfilled, more aligned, more joyful in your life and in your choices, and start making choices from a much more powerful and empowered place. So those are the two buckets. You've got anabolic energy, the really constructive, growth-oriented, positive energy, and you have catabolic energy. That's stuff that just is deadly. I mean, think about someone you know that is catabolic. Before you even get there, you're dreading it. So those are the two buckets. Within this energetic framework, there are also 7 different levels and how they manifest. The lowest level, which is catabolic, is that real victim orientation. Just everything is happening to them. And in fact, they almost get to a point of complete inaction because they're so overwhelmed by life. Many of us get there, if not all the time, certainly when we're triggered by stress. Now, the highest anabolic level is really someone who is living a totally non-judgmental, in absolute passion, and that's the other end. Now, the reality is none of us stay in any one of these 7 places all the time. It's like a musical instrument with the notes that go up and down and up and down. And interestingly enough, what we learn in the course and what I teach a lot of my clients is you try and even do this, it's not necessarily positive or negative. Even the lower levels of energy at times have some positive outcomes. The question is, if you're coming from a place of choice, you can make sure that you're choosing the type of energy that best serves the outcome that you're trying to get. So that's really the premise of a lot of this energetic framework. It's really starting to shift from going your subconscious driving you, it's your past experiences and your attitudes and your values just kind of are driving you. It's like a self-driving car. You don't even know where it's taking you. To all of a sudden starting to get tools and techniques that you can come from a place of conscious choice to make sure you're driving and empowered in the most productive and rewarding path for your life.
The next topic will be?
Let's see.
Change the batteries there just in case.
I might go a little deeper on the women professional stuff. Let's see. Exploration and conscious, cultivate conscious-based confidence.
Ready when you are.
Okay, so what I'd like to talk about now is 3 simple secrets that successful women know that help them avoid feeling underpaid, underappreciated, and unhappy in their careers. So the first secret is that your potential is based upon the fact that you can grow, not what you know. And what I mean by this is oftentimes when people hold themselves back from promotions, it's because they think, they look at the job description and they say, but I don't have all those qualifications. I don't know enough. But the reality is when you're really getting that next role, nobody can possibly have had all of those experience. That's just a lateral move. That's not a promotion. So it's getting really centered on the fact that you are someone who is learning agile. You have the ability to grow in your life, learn things new, bring people along on your journey. And the nice thing about this is I don't think any of us can look back at our lives and said, well, I've never grown. I don't know how to do that. All of us have experience that we can look back and say, well, how did I get from point A to point B? So the real first secret that successful women know is that your potential is very much hinged on the fact that you can grow, not that you know. The second real secret is this concept of exploration, not expectation. Many times people don't put themselves forward because they're really afraid of getting the no. They put all of this meaning in their head. Well, if I get a no, that means I wasn't smart enough or I wasn't good enough. And I have this saying, sometimes getting the no helps you know. And what I mean by this is if you explore and you're not attached to the outcome, whatever the feedback, let's say you go for a new job and you get the no, there's a couple of very positive things that can come out of that, even if you get a no. One is you get very constructive feedback from your organization. They say, we think you're great, but you really need to develop 1, 2, 3, 4 competencies, and then you'll be ready. That's really helpful, something you wouldn't have had you not put yourself forward. Second thing is you get a no, you're entirely ready for that job, you don't get it for whatever reason, and you have a chance to decide whether this organization is really ready for your awesomeness. Because there is just like no employee is indispensable, there's no company that's indispensable either. So if you're really clear that you want to get that next position and you're ready, if you get a no from your current organization, well, that is a data for you to say, okay, maybe it's time now for me to start taking calls from headhunters or more aggressively starting to look about what's in the marketplace. So that's the second secret, really starting to explore and be in this place of exploration, not expectation, and lean into the fear of getting that no. The third, and it's definitely a journey, is developing consciousness-based confidence. And what I mean by this is, unfortunately, and it drives me crazy, I see these articles giving women advice on how they're supposed to behave to look like they're confident. Speak up more, don't speak up more, wear heels. It's all this, it's almost like accessories to confidence, but it's not your organic confidence. For someone to be confident, they need to be in touch with their most authentic selves. They need to understand what they bring to the table so that their voice, their opinion, their value to themselves and therefore the organization is really clear in their head. And in order to do that, you need to really kind of strip away some of the messages you may have told yourself, you may have believed of other people telling yourself. And so, although I think some of the magazine advice on fake it till you make it is well intended, to me, that triggers for many people even more imposter syndrome. They're going to find out that I really don't know what I'm doing. And it's not really all that helpful. So working with an executive coach to help you go deeper and really align to who you are and what's your unique value proposition is probably one of the most powerful ways for you to be able to unlock your career and potential.
Perfect. All right, what have you got for us next?
Let's see. Da-da-da-da. I think I'm getting pretty close. Da-da-da-da. I think I pretty much talked about type A's. I think that's kind of it. Anything else you think might be interesting to hear about? I'm sure something will come to me while I'm driving home.
Yeah, me too.
Of course, you know. Let's see. Da-da-da-da. I mean, I can talk a little bit about team effectiveness. I mean, I've got 4 channels for work that I do. My individual coaching is sort of more my passion and purpose, which are those niches. I do team effectiveness coaching, and then I do like human capital consulting, which is really kind of like people just call me and say, hey, it's not really where it's like my freebie money. It's not really where I'm doing a lot of marketing, just people know me for that. So I don't really think I need to talk about that one so much. Maybe team effectiveness.
What about breaking down like the very first steps that someone would take in contacting you, like how it begins? You start by getting to know each other. Do you send them a questionnaire?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so
yeah.
kind of like the intros. To the
so how do we begin a
make
partnership?
People feel comfortable in getting the ball rolling.
Yeah. So why don't we discuss how we could start a coaching partnership together? And so part of it is really for us to get to know each other. Now, obviously, I need to get to know you in a lot more detail. So I give you what I call an initial input form that really talks about your history, your goals, your dreams, the things that have been your challenges, really anything and everything that you want to tell me about yourself, so that I'm in the best position to have the most powerful insights and help you accelerate your process. So the first session is very much about just conversation. It's really getting to know each other, make sure we have crystal clarity on what you want to accomplish in our time together. Because also, unlike therapy, you know, which is sort of dysfunctional to functional, and coaching is functional to optimal, with coaching, it's really important not just to have insights and nice conversation and new techniques, but to get you into action. And having a coach really helps you hold yourself accountable to making the steps that you're committing yourself to going forward. So when we start a coaching agreement, I like to make sure, even if we change the premise later on, that we're very clear at whatever amount of coaching time you've signed up for, that we get the maximum value for you and the maximum progress of that time. So there's a lot of clarity coaching in what I do. And it's okay, by the way, right now, not to know. You can just have a general feeling that, you know, I don't feel like myself, I'm not fulfilled, I don't know what career I should be doing. Absolutely, first of all, very normal, totally normal. We have all been there. And that's why having someone working with you to ask those questions, those empowered questions, those clarifying questions, sometimes just even to start to say what you don't want, helps you narrow the field to what you do want. So from there, really after that is a very tailored approach as far as what you would need as a client to move most powerfully towards whatever goal we set together. And like I said, it's important to start with a very clear vision. Tons of clients we've gotten midway through and they say, you know what, now that I'm here, I think I'd like to make a left turn. I think this is really where I need to go, and it's the most powerful use of my time. Absolutely okay. But in the beginning, you still want to be able to put a pin in it and decide you're moving forward, because moving forward is one of the most important aspects of having a coach.
Perfect. And let's do the team
Okay.
stuff.
So one of the areas I actually very much enjoy coaching because it's something I did as an executive and as a manager for many years is team effectiveness coaching. It ends up typically being a blend of consulting and coaching. And as I say that, I probably should explain what's the difference between consulting and coaching. So when you're a consultant, you come in, you have a model, you have answers, you have suggestions, and you say, okay, let's try it one way that I know, another way that I know, and there's a lot of recommendations and suggestions. That's really consulting. Coaching, on the other hand, is someone coming in and helping you tap into what is your wisest and most genius answer. What is the thing inside of you that you need help coming out so that you can speak most powerfully into the future, be your most innovative self. So one is definitely more external, and one is someone helping you go from the internal perspective. Particularly when it comes to team effectiveness, this is really, really important, because oftentimes it's getting people aligned on the external goals, on what the team is really meant to be delivering, how fast, what is the style of work. It's very much about personality and work interplay. And a lot of it is also about the leader effectiveness. Even if it's an implied leader of a team and not a articulated leader, having them know what their true role is and how they can unlock the potential of everyone in the team is critical. So they almost become a mini coach. So they can take some of the lessons that I do with my individual clients, and they can actually pollinate that within the team themselves. Last but not least, since I've been an HR executive for many years, I definitely love to help teams identify whether they've even got the right roles identified, the right talent in the roles. Oftentimes there's just a gap, or there's they double up on something, and they're really holistically missing a piece within the team dynamic that would really make them much more productive, much more innovative. And when you have innovative teams, often they need a little help facilitating the conversation because they're coming from very different points of view. But that's still a much more powerful and interesting place to be.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's it?
I think so. I did it. I did
Another
it.
moment just to think.
Yeah,
if
let me
there's
think if
anything
there's
Brian
else.
might do.
Yeah, let me see. Da-da-da-da. I think that's it. Let me take a look at if there's anything else that in the wireframe. Let's see. Actually, not too bad for a first time.
I think that was great. Have you spent much time in front of the camera? Well, of course, acting. I suppose.
No, I mean, this 30 years ago, and I did almost all stage. So lately, I've been doing video
So
this
you've
way.
got the presence, is what I'm trying
Yeah,
to
and
say, which is really
I'm kind of getting back to. It's funny because, like I said, I was always the woman behind the man. But so I worked for this really top executive that was giving the keynote at this huge conference at some big DC, one of those big conference room, ballroom things. And he got called in front of. He had to present in front of the board. I'd written his speech anyway, so they sent me down, and I hadn't been on a stage in like 25 years. And they're like, who the hell is this chick? Because Orlando's this big, famous presence, and I'm, whatever. They mic me up, I get on the stage, it was like 25 years had never passed, nailed it. They're like, we're so glad Orlando didn't come. And I'm like, but it's so much fun, because you're like interacting with the audience, and it's more like jazz than Mozart. You just kind of get up and you have fun, and you have a conversation. So I'm getting back to really enjoying it again. I don't know why I hid for so long.
That's great. It really shows in the cameras.
I really hid.
Yeah,
I don't know why I hid for so long. I just wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready.
Now, I don't know how you guys are proceeding with this in terms of the editing, if you're going to review the footage first.
I don't know. I haven't, Steve and I, it was so funny. I mean, how this all came up is I just decided a week or so ago, I'm like, I think video in my website would be nice. And I reached out to him and I said, I'd love some of your advice. You obviously have this incredible company, and starting out, anybody whatever else got any advice? He's like, funny enough, I just opened the studio. Why don't you come by? And so honestly, it's been very just kind of like, all right, let's try it. And I haven't really thought or talked more about it since. But
All right. Well, regardless of what approach you guys do take, one thing that I thought is worth pointing out is a lot of people, when they're doing this type of video, they get a little bit over anal about every little mistake, every little pause, every I completely disagree with that kind of mindset. I think you leave it in, because it's just you don't want to come off as too robotic.
I agree.
It just personifies.
As long as you're not doing it all the time, like if it's like a one-off thing,
yeah.
like
Some
the
people
people
got
that are always
stutters,
or they're going every sentence or two.
Yeah.
That's kind of annoying. But
yeah,
if
that
it's
didn't
just every
happen. You
once in
did
a
it
while-
very few times throughout the entire segment that we just shot,
Okay,
and I
cool.
say leave it in.
Okay, awesome. I have to admit, unless it's like something that I feel like I'm not articulating well, I'm pretty like I'm not an overly anal person with this kind of stuff, as long as I feel like my message is coming across and I don't look like a cow. Like, those two things are probably my own things, but other than that,